I am again thankful to all news media outlets for letting me use their contents. I greatly appreciate that. I am available 24/7 if they need any assistance. Now go to the headlines. Hi and very warm welcome at Amir Shackle 5858. I am Amir Shackle. Following news headlines have been reported by world major English news channels and news agencies. So please watch it.
Tonight, breaking news as we come on the air, U.S. stocks plunge after President Trump's tariffs, the worst day in years since the beginning of the pandemic. Also tonight, at least 30 tornadoes in the warning watches right now, the dangerous storms coming tonight, and the massive and deadly home explosion. First tonight, President Trump's tariffs sending U.S. to plummeting. The Dow closing down nearly 1,700 points today alone, one of its worst days ever. The NASDAQ and S&P 500 seeing their worst day in years. Millions of Americans seeing their 401ks shrink as families now brace for higher prices. The third largest U.S. automaker, Stellantis, laying off 900 workers tonight. President Trump saying late today, quote, "I think it's going very well." And tonight we're on the auto lot. We're at the appliance store, the supermarket, across this country with prices set to spike. Also breaking tonight, authorities warning of potential tornadoes and dangerous storms moving in tonight, multiple states. At least 30 tornadoes already. At least 2 EF3 tornadoes touching down, winds between 150 and 160 miles per hour. Families taking shelter underground. The home explosion tonight turning deadly, the massive inferno. A woman inside the home killed, a man blown right into the front yard. He survives it. There is news coming in from Washington, D.C. at this hour, the stabbing spree in the nation's capital. Tonight, President Trump firing several members of the National Security Council following an Oval Office meeting with a far-right activist. Also breaking here tonight, what HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. told our reporter. He now acknowledges mistakes made amid the massive firings in his department. The parents charged after disturbing images, the brawl during a youth hockey game. Bruce Springsteen opening the vault. The boss about to release 7 lost albums. And America Strong tonight, you have to see the remarkable images from the Philadelphia Zoo. She's a first-time mom at 97 years old. From ABC.
Canada's counterattack against American tariffs this Thursday night.
If the United States no longer wants to lead, Canada will.
How Canada is pushing back, the market's meltdown, and fears the U.S. is falling into recession. One automaker hits the brakes on production, the message it sends. Plus, how goods like phones are going to get pricier. Neighborhoods obliterated. The intense storms that barreled through parts of the U.S. And the ultimate high note. The second Canadian ever to win the prestigious Polar Music Prize.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. The world is digesting the American president's escalating trade war. Donald Trump has imposed taxes on imports to the U.S. from countries around the world, including allies. He calls it payback for unfair trade practices. And while he didn't add new tariffs on Canada, the ones Trump already announced on steel, aluminum, and autos are in effect. Today, Canada's Prime Minister said he will match them.
So while it's progress that further tariffs were not imposed on Canada yesterday, the president's actions will reverberate here in Canada and across the world. While this is a tragedy, it is also the new reality. We must respond with both purpose and force.
Our coverage begins with Mackenzie Gray.
After reading live from Texas, this is the Will Kane Show. Liberation Day represents a historic phase. Whether or not you're a skeptic or a cheerleader, a new era for the American economy. But not just for the American economy, but the men and women and the middle class of America. President Trump just made the biggest bet of his political career. But the short-term fallout is already being felt. The market today down, S&P 500, the NASDAQ, the Dow, down. Tech stocks absolutely hammered down 10% on the NASDAQ. It does deserve some context. What do we mean by down? Take a look at this 12-month chart of the Dow Jones Industrial Average. We have returned to the average of roughly October, down from the December highs of the election of Donald Trump and down from the January highs of the first term, the first month of his second term at the presidency. We've essentially returned to the place that we were a few months before Donald Trump. This is a crisis, according to Wall Street. The Economist today, in fact, suggests it's a day of ruination. Today, betting markets are suggesting we have about a 50% odd of a recession. But this is a big bet. It is a revolutionary bet, a historic bet, and a long-term bet that has been a long time in the making.
Something's going to happen over the next number of years with this country, because you can't keep going on losing $200 billion, and yet we let Japan come in and dump everything right into our markets and everything. It's not free trade. It's the poorest person in Kuwait. They live like kings, and yet they're not paying. We make it possible for them to sell their oil. Why aren't they paying us 25% of what they're making? It's a joke.
For decades, Donald Trump has been making this argument of restructuring the American economy so that we're not suckers and losers on the bad side of every international trade. But it's also a restructuring of not just our economy, but I would argue, and that we should see it as, a potential restructuring of the American spirit, the purpose of America. Lindy Man on X, Paul Scalise in real life, friend here of the Will Cain Show, put this out earlier today. He said, "I'm sick of seeing the depressing Walmart towns with the obese Americans in flyover country. I'm sick of the dollar stores. Everything has to change. No more cheap goods, no more Chinese or Vietnamese trinkets, no more obesity. Every man must work in a factory or be a cobbler." Now, I don't know about that last line of all of us being a cobbler or working in a factory. But we are at a deficit. We are in a depression of purpose.
Promises of a statement from police shortly over this outbreak of violence at Seaside Town.
I'm very sorry about your son. It was an execution.
I imagine you've heard about us.
Not a crime family. It could clearly reignite some of those turf wars. We are in danger.
Together and storm, and I'm worried about anyone who's at the centre of it. Okay, stuff. It's from nothing.
A bold thing.
Sherwood, next Friday, 8:30, or stream the full season on ABC iView.
Australia's superannuation funds come under a coordinated cyber attack, with the scale of the theft being constantly increased. Trump's tariffs tank the markets, wiping trillions off Wall Street and rattling the ASX and other global indices. Victorian underworld boss Tony Mockbell walks free for the first time in 18 years after being granted bail. And South Korea's constitutional court upholds the parliament's impeachment of Yoon Suk-yeol. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Joe O'Brien. Some of Australia's biggest superannuation funds are working with the National Cyber Security Coordinator after confirming they've been hit with the suspected cyber attack. Australian Retirement Trust, Australian Super, Host Plus, Rest and Insignia have all been subjected to the attack. Nalin Arachilage is an associate professor in cybersecurity at RMIT University. He says a technique known as credential stuffing was likely used in today's cyber attack.
What happened was the cyber criminals employed a technique called credential stuffing, which involves using stolen credentials such as username, password, perhaps the banking details of those victims from a previously recorded data breaches. So they use this information to access to victims' superannuation account. So that is sort of a repercussion that we experience today from a previously occurred data breaches. We have been experiencing lots of great data.
Africa News. The news
As the impact of US President Donald Trump's tariff hikes continue to reverberate around the world, South Africa's presidency says they highlight the urgent need for a new bilateral trade deal with Washington. Trump imposed a 30% rate on the country, which exports a wide range of products to the US.
South Africa has quite an expansive trade relationship with the US. It's been there for quite a long time. It is what we call commodities, things like steel. Then soft commodities that would be, as you say, agricultural products.
Terrorism and are whistled by foreign state sponsors and actors. Which we need to fight against. Malian and Russian mercenaries dead. Dozens across several in the Sweden city of armed at the hands of flagrant violation of human rights and international law. Many have been forced to escape the violence, fleeing to the Jabal Aliya area. It's further evacuations in a country already in the grips of the largest displacement crisis in the world. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, the RSF continues to suffer setbacks. Since the beginning of the year, the army has seized Sana'a, Al Jazeera, and White Nile State, as well as the capital Khartoum, giving it control of the center of Sudan. Unabated by the army's advance, the RSF is now pushing to capture towns like Al Obed and the area of South Kordofan. The paramilitary's number 2, Abderrahim Dargo, also threatening to attack northern state and Nile state. With most of Sudan now in its hands, regaining control of Darfur is the army's next target.
The Rose Bowl Stadium in Pasadena, California, one of 12 venues in the United States to host FIFA's new Club World Cup. Visiting the stadium, FIFA President Gianni Infantino highlighted the global significance and inclusive ethos of the tournament.
I'm very happy that we are here today because FIFA has created a new event, a new FIFA World Cup. After we know since almost 100 years which country is the best country in the world in soccer since 1930. It was about time that we come up with a competition which will determine which club, which team is the best team in the world.
32 clubs, including 4 from Africa, will take part in the inaugural tournament from the 14th of June to the 13th of July. Infantino also gave Rose Bowl tickets to first responders who battled the devastating wildfires that ravaged the Los Angeles region in January.
Hello, welcome back to Daybreak on France 24. I'm Karis Garland. It's good to have you with us. Here's a look at the top stories we're covering. South Korea's ousted President Yoon Suk-yeol says he's sorry he did not live up to expectations after the Helbugin. Bonds not public report again incident have erupted across Seoul. Enemies to sit caps the tumultuous 4 months. Yoon briefly declared martial law in the country in early December, which saw armed soldiers deployed to parliament. He was also arrested on direction charges as part of a separate criminal case. Caroline Baum reminds us of how we got. Immigration and South Korea used stripped the president, and terror erupted on the streets after the ruling was announced. Asian stocks tumbling after Wall Street saw its worst one-day drop since the COVID pandemic. Investors worry escalating trade war could plunge the world into a recession. Nations now seeking trade talks with the U.S. Cleanup operations are underway in Singapore after an oil spill from Johor reaches Changi Beach and Pulau Ubin. President Yoon Suk-yeol has issued an apology saying he is sorry for failing to live up to expectations after the country's constitutional court upheld his impeachment over a botched martial law declaration formally removing him from office. The verdict took effect immediately. All 8 judges voted to oust the leader. The ruling cannot be appealed. The court said Mr. Yoon's martial law declaration violated South Korea's constitution and did not follow correct procedures. Mr. Yoon, now a civilian, faces a trial on charge of insurrection, which could result in life imprisonment or even the death penalty. A snap election has to be called within 60 days to replace it. The country's emissions potentially register from May. Acting President Han Duck-soo has promised to do all he can to ensure a smooth transition of power.
아울러 주권자인 국민 여러분의 뜻을 받들어 헌법과 법률에 따라 다음 정부가 차질 없이 출범할 수 있도록
It's from the world. President Donald's tariff rollout. Plus, we'll bring you the overnight action from the Landers has been this. It's also available. Donald claims that Keir is very happy about how the UK is giving tariffs, despite the government saying it's considering retaliatory action.
Yes, we have a very good dialogue. And I think he was very happy about how we treated them with tariffs.
People of South Korea after 20 of President the U.S. blasts face closure after their Chinese owners of crucial supplies. Birmingham becomes a prime target for rodents as rotting waste piles up on the street amid the city's bin strikes. LCB to crash the hedge and to glue.
Thank you very much for giving time to Amir Shackle 5858. I am Amir Shackle. Have a good life. Bye bye.